Back on the Irish people, Dr. Vida Hamilton says they're trying to manage the demand for emergency services as best they can.
Our emergency departments are open, but the process to be treated in the emergency department is incredibly delayed. So we're asking people if they have an alternate to consider all the other alternatives for their healthcare needs open to them before attending the emergency department.
Emergency COVID powers are set to be extended until November 9th after getting Cabinet approval this morning. This covers rules around wearing face masks, Garda powers to inspect pubs, the banning of large gatherings and mandatory hotel quarantine. The legislation had been due to expire in June. This doesn't mean all restrictions will last until November, and the government plans to unwind many of them before that date. However, it'll give government the power to enforce or reintroduce restrictions if the public health situation requires it. And finally, Aer Lingus is closing its Shannon base and laying off Cork cabin crew without pay between September and November. Management told staff the airline will emerge smaller from the pandemic and there will be a requirement for redundancies. 81 crew at Shannon will be offered enhanced redundancy terms or a transfer to Dublin, and 45 ground staff will remain laid off. It's 9:02.
News Talk Weather.
Thanks to Ryanair. Track and solve your customer service queries online and on your Ryanair app.
Scattered showers will mainly affect the northern half of the country tonight. Many other areas will be dry. Lowest temperatures of between 1 and 5 degrees. And now you're up to date on News Talk.
The Football Show on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the Champions League. We love it as much as Neymar loves himself. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
I'm prepared to do anything I can to play for my country again.
Do it then. What about your start to the game?
It wasn't bad, was it?
Why should an honest answer be a mistake?
How can a modern day manager not have a mobile phone?
Why should he?
OK, great to have you along for the Football Show. Plenty going on, as you can well imagine. Manchester United and Fulham have drawn 1-1 this evening. Southampton beaten 2-0 by Leeds United. Leeds United up to 8th in the table. All the plaudits going the way of West Ham, and Leeds are right behind them. Admittedly, they've played a game extra, but just 3 points behind them in 8th. They're above Everton. Amazing performance. They're in a good vein of form of late, and it's putting a serious polish on their season under Bielsa this year. Elsewhere this evening, Brighton and Hove Albion 3, Manchester City 2. That is a full-time result. Extraordinary game there. Just opening up what happened. Gundogan scored after 2 minutes for Man City. Phil Foden put Man City 2-0 up on 48 minutes. I mean, what are the odds then of Man City being beaten by Brighton 2-0 up? But goals came in the 50th, 72nd and 76 minutes, and Brighton have beaten Man City by 3-2, rather extraordinarily. And then it's 0-0 between Chelsea and Leicester at Stamford Bridge. Timo Werner is having one of those nights, I'm afraid, for him. Offside for one disallowed goal, and then the other one, it was a flick on at a corner. I was more reading the second one and about it, and it was a flick on at a corner, and it seems he kind of bundled it over the line from 2 yards out, open goal. But really, it would have been easier maybe to head the ball as opposed to catch it with his arms. So disallowed one of those nights, and that is how it's gone for Timo Werner a little bit so far this season. 0-0 at Stamford Bridge. Dan McDonnell of the Irish Independent with me. Hello.
Evening, Joe. I think there's a key detail you did miss from the Brighton Man City story, though, was Joe Cancelo was sent off in the 10th minute. So that was the context of the Brighton comeback, is that they were playing against 10 men for 80 minutes. So they basically wore down Man City's 10 men in the end. So that is what happened there.
Okay.
I mean, it was extraordinary enough, but it was 10 men Man City for most of it. So,
you know, I would still feel strongly if I, gun to my head, Man City go down to 10 men at 1-0 up, then score a second goal. I would still think, you know what, they're going to be okay.
Yeah, it's true, but I didn't see the game, but Brighton are a team that moves the ball pretty well.
Yeah.
The way they play, you can see how they would have the ability maybe to try and use that space, and clearly. They did use that pretty well.
Yeah.
To some shape or form. But and I suppose City, their whole season is now building up towards one game, really, isn't it? So, I don't know, you don't want to be leaving it all on the line in a dead rubber midweek, do you? With 10 men and do yourself unnecessary damage.
Fair point. Ian Beach is at Stamford Bridge, Chelsea against Leicester. It's gone half time. Here's the report.
Chelsea 0, Leicester 0. Chelsea have certainly been lifted by having 8,000 passionate fans behind them, but the scoreline is good for Leicester. However, Chelsea have been the better team by some distance. They've had 2 goals disallowed. Both times Tino Werner thought he had scored. First time he was offside. That was correct by VAR. And second time the ball hit his arm on the way over the line. So that too was a correct decision. At half-time, Chelsea 0, Leicester 0.
There we are, and we can bring you the full-time report from Brighton against Man City. Here's Richard Newman.
Full-time, Brighton and Hove Albion 3, 10-man Manchester City 2. The almost 8,000 fans returning to the Amex enjoyed this one. What a game. Albion coming from 2-0 down to beat the Premier League champions. City went ahead after just 2 minutes through Ilkay Gundogan's header, but after 10 minutes, João Cancelo was sent off for putting back Danny Welbeck. Albion responded well, but just after the break, City doubled their lead through a brilliant solo goal from Phil Foden. Brighton were back in it when Leandro Trossard capitalised on a City loose ball to score, and they really upped the pressure from there. Adam Webster got the equaliser with a superb header before Dan Burn got his first Premier League goal, needing 2 attempts to beat Edison. A brilliant game, brilliant to have fans back in stadiums. It's finished Brighton 3, Manchester City 2.
Yeah, pretty amazing, really. So on the Champions League front, Dan, it's all very interesting, as we kind of figured it would be. As things stand, 0-0 at Stamford Bridge, Leicester on 67 points, Chelsea on 65, and Liverpool with the game in hand on 63. So it's in Liverpool's hands. They can overtake Chelsea if it stays like this. Basically, Leicester have Spurs on the last day of the season at home, Chelsea are away to Villa, and Liverpool still have Burnley away, Crystal Palace at home. I mean, there's a lot that can change, obviously, in the next 45 minutes and all the other games. But that's where we are on the Champions League front.
Yeah, I mean, it's been enjoyable, this Chelsea game, in a way. I mean, listen, all the games actually I've watched a bit of tonight have been enjoyable just because the fans are in, and there's sort of a bit more energy to it. But like every couple of minutes, Timo Werner is involved in something in this game. It's like a goal disallowed or a penalty claim or whatever it is. But there's a real sense of like urgency around Chelsea's situation. It's like, how have they ended up in this position almost? And it's sort of like we talked probably last week about Thomas Tuchel and how things were sort of looking up. And I know you would have talked about this with Pat and Evan last night and stuff, so I'm not going to go over it in too much detail obviously again, but that Chelsea have obviously just they've had a testing week, and all of a sudden, like, from being very comfortable, they're in that sense. It's like, right, this is running away from them a small bit here, because as you say, the equation is such that they just have to win this game tonight, or else they are in real bother, as you suggest. And while Liverpool aren't still purring enough that you can say with certainty that they're just going to steamroll those last 2 games, I don't think you can say that after watching the West Brom game. And they're almost in danger of like that emotional high on Sunday, like, and those amazing scenes. It can propel you to something, or it can just, it can go the other way in a strange way. So I'm not saying it's a given Liverpool to get those points, but you would expect it though, wouldn't you? I mean, realistically.
You would. On Timo Werner's evening then, so 1 goal disallowed courtesy of an offside. He does have a habit of getting himself in offside positions. There was a Champions League game where he had a really poor offside, and Steve McManaman and Glenn Hoddle, I remember on commentary in BT, were saying at this level, they were emphasising at this level, it just was nowhere near good enough. It was like him looking across the line, and there was an anxiety, I think, understandably maybe for somebody who's not scoring enough goals, to make sure he got to the ball, so he just couldn't help himself and was offside. And it's happened a few times, so it happened again this evening. This evening's one maybe not quite as bad. There was an unexpected breakdown in play, but look, it happened. And then the other disallowed goal, where really the consensus I'm seeing, even just looking at the Guardian's match report here, I didn't get to see this exact moment, but I've just seen it actually on the TV.
I think it's a bit harsh as described to him. Like, he was under a bit of pressure from the Leicester defender, and he could have got his head in it, but you give me your take, having watched it there sort of fresh.
Well, I've watched one of the funky Sky Sports angles, that they use at an ad break as opposed to the usual one. So it just looks like he's a yard out, and he's sort of it's a bit low to get his head down to, is it? And so it bundles in off his arm. He's maybe
been dragged. He's not quite been dragged back, but like Wesley Fofana is sort of pretty tight to him. And he's just one of those where he's like a half a second off the perfect timing to get his head at it. So it comes down off his arm. Now, again, there was a delayed moment in the stadium where the ball hadn't crossed the line, in terms of it wasn't immediately obvious that it had. and then the goal line technology came through that it had, so there was like jubilation, and then of course, like, you know, that familiar sort of VAR, you know, the nightclub is closed, lads, go home sort of vibe, where it just completely come in to shoot the party down. But I don't know, like, it happened very quickly. He made a reasonably good run, and he was under a bit of pressure, and I don't know. I think it's more in isolation, it wasn't particularly bad from him, but obviously added to a sequence of recent events, you can understand why it's viewed more critically.
That's fair. Funny, I don't know what your thought is or what the commentary team were saying. I've just seen another incident where, if I can describe it for listeners, Tielemans is in his own penalty box and he's about to clear the football, and he takes a good old backswing. I mean, it's the opposite of a Mason Greenwood finish. He takes a good old backswing to boot the ball away, and I think Timo Werner senses an opportunity and he nips in and plants his left foot in front of the ball. So I would argue, I think, looking at this maybe once or twice here, I would argue at that moment, nipping in and putting his foot in front of the ball, he is now in possession of the football, and then Tielemans follows through with his kick and kicks the back of Werner's leg, his calf, and then Werner hits the deck. I would actually say that's a penalty. Like, it's a really unfair one in some ways. It's kind of crafty on Werner's part, but I mean, I would have him as in possession of the ball when he nips in and gets his foot in there first.
Yeah, I would have thought, I mean, initially I thought this is definitely going to be a penalty, but I actually haven't heard what sort of reasoning was given for not, you know, I mean, as you say, was it almost too crafty and too obvious a movement that he basically went to invite it, you know, when Tielemans is sort of in possession of the ball himself, you know, it's almost reversed, like a judge as a foul by Werner, basically, which I think was the way it sort of almost seemed to go. But it definitely looked like one you could argue for some time, and I suspect if Chelsea don't win, we'll hear more about it.
Yeah, I think you're right. A few things to get through as well then. Man United 1, Fulham 1 at Old Trafford. Cavani's goal in 15 minutes was beautiful. I mean, it was just lovely. I'm sure you saw it, Dan.
Yeah. Again, amplified by the crowd though as well. That sense of this is something good is happening here. There's an opportunity sort of, you know, 35 yards from goal, 30 yards from goal, and he executes it like extremely well. Yeah. Now I remember, like, it was a very, very different type of goal, but like, I mean, you know, the Mitrovic one against Mark Travers for Serbia, Ireland, and there was a bit of a discussion about, well, I mean, if the keeper's off his line, you know, a player should be executing that, you know, at that level. Obviously this was far, far harder to execute, but it was still it's still pretty brilliant to do it. Like, to do it at that sort of pace is exceptional. But hey, the beloved crowd noise is what we all wanted as well. Mr. Fake Crowd Noise, you know, inventor is sitting at home realizing that no matter how hard you try to make it authentic, there ain't nothing like the real thing with these celebrations.
It's quite different in lots of ways to David Beckham had a kind of lob on the run. I think the ball was bouncing though a bit more against West Ham, maybe. God, it's so old now to be saying maybe 20 years ago. But yeah, it was one of those where Cavani was still a long way out and he just took it first time. And
the first time aspect was impressive.
Beautiful, yeah, and obviously had to flight it at a kind of quite a flat trajectory and still obviously lobbed the keeper. So that was the opener. 15 minutes gone, Credit happy. Then Fulham equalise. Man United at home this season have been really poor. They have lost 6 games at home, and I think 2 points dropped against Fulham doesn't feel much better. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, Dan, you know he models himself on one man, Alex Ferguson, who would take to grabbing the mic and letting me speak to the crowd. So Solskjaer has spoken to the crowd. I don't think, this is subject to double checking, but we had a look. We don't think that he addressed the protests or the Glazer situation in any great way, as you can imagine. But he did say a few words to the crowd afterwards on the pitch. Have a listen.
I'll be back in supporting the team. We know it's been a long year for everyone, but I'm so grateful to see you back here supporting everyone. It's great. It's been great working with these boys. They're a great group of lads, players, the staff. I know we're not where we want to be in the league, but hopefully we can bring a trophy back in about 10 days' time. So we'll do whatever we can, and hopefully next year we can see everyone on the seats again. So all the best, support the team, and a safe trip back home.
Very good. Can't fault that, Dan?
No, I mean it had all the basics you would expect. I mean, it was like, like a golf club speech. You thank everyone, you say the right things. I mean, I don't know. I'm not sure there was sort of grand statements there we can analyse in any great detail. He sort of said what you would expect to say. It is weird when I was watching a bit of Southampton Leeds, and like it's the only. So obviously it's customary in England, after, and in most countries, like after your last home game of the season in the league, that you go round and you give the round of applause. And like when it's been basically your only game, other than that little brief window where there was fans, was it before Christmas? Like when it's basically your only game. Like Southampton lost, but they obviously still had to go and they were like well beaten by Leeds, but they still had to sort of go and do that sort of thing. And Hassan Hoodle was very much like, and everyone gets this is more about the year, than tonight. But obviously it's a bit of a it's a flat one when you've drawn a home to Fulham to in a bit of a dead rubber. But it's your only chance to see people, so I completely understand why you just have to go out there. Yeah, listen, it's not really the time to probably go into the protests. There'll be a time and a place again where a full house will have their say, I suspect, on that stuff.
Yeah, it's very tricky to address from Solskjaer's point of view for obvious reasons. I think he personally has a lot of credit in the bank, especially with the match-going fans in Manchester. Obviously, they've a long relationship with him as a player. I think they recognise he's doing a pretty good job and they like him, and they were never inclined to boo even Mourinho at his worst. They're a pretty patient bunch, it seemed, in the stadium, so he was always going to get a good reception, I think. On his former teammates, Eric Cantona, Roy Keane, the latest inductees into the Premier League Hall of Fame, 3rd and 4th. Roy's done pretty well, top 4 into the Premier League Hall of Fame, that's good. Alan Shearer, Thierry Henry were first in, that was back in April. So Keane, his credentials don't really need repeating here. 7 Premier Leagues, 4 FA Cups, Champions League, treble team, captain. And then Cantona obviously won 4 titles in 5 years at United. I think Ryan Giggs had been due to be inducted, but obviously that's not happening at the moment. So they were 2 of 6 players from a 23-man shortlist to receive the most combined votes from the public and the Premier League Awards panel. The next 4 inductees will be announced over the next 3 days. So there we go, I guess. It's nice. It's hard really to... I mean, a few people were texting in saying, Cantona, was he that good? I guess it'd be wrong to view these awards as the 4 best players thus far. There's a bigger contribution, I think, especially maybe more so than the other 3 on Cantona's part, which goes beyond just how good a player was he. Yeah, well, this is it. Like, what is your criteria for letting someone into a Hall of Fame? Yeah, like, do you talk about like impactful moments? Like, without Cantona, does that era, which was the first dominant era of the Premier League, football only began in 1992, sort of, beginning of history. Without Cantona, does that happen? And that's obviously a point of debate, and I don't know, in other sports, like I naturally sort of gravitate towards golf talking to you, like, is it just the guys who win the most majors and it's from the top down, or is there a sense of, well, someone came along at a point in history and was, a revolutionary figure, and like Ben Hogan or someone, like, their story is as much as part of their nomination as their bottom line achievements as well. Like, everyone on that list has good achievements, although I did hear your point about Dennis Irwin earlier on. I'm thinking, if Ashley Cole is on the list at 23, which he was, Dennis Irwin has to be on that list. Yeah. I don't care what anyone says. I suspect Dennis will be harshly treated in a Hall of Fame type scenario. Definitely. And, in years, like, I don't know what the longer term plans are for this Hall of Fame. Like, are we going to have in a number of years' time where, like, Timo Werner's just going to be in it, like on foot of a couple of years' service, or is it going to retain a degree of, like, but, like, what? Isn't it right that Keane has been put in there first before, I just expected Lampard to get in. I suspected Lampard would get in. Because we're so used to that sort of the English debate going that way. That like, it's always a constant source of frustration, and it shouldn't even be an Irish thing, although it probably is in our own green tinted world. It's going that way. But, like, I mean, Keane was, if we're all talking about Cantona, like, Keane was a powerhouse figure in a team that won 7 league titles. Like, so of course he should be in it, but I think sometimes we almost get self-conscious about pushing the green angle on it and thinking, maybe do we get a bit carried away? It's like, no, Keane was the business.
he absolutely was the business.
Yeah.
And he should be in there. And Chelsea have just scored. So there we go.
Oh, wow. Rudiger. Huge goal. That's a huge goal. I don't think this is great for Liverpool, is it? So Chelsea 1, Leicester 0.
Well, it's bad for Leicester
with a header from a corner.
Too,
Liverpool can still get Leicester, can they? So Leicester.
Well, no, it's fundamentally it's going to be bad for Liverpool, but the Liverpool Leicester are going to be on a sort of a collision course with each other.
Sorry, yeah, no, it's not good for Liverpool really. I mean,
no.
Chelsea losing or a draw was the way that Liverpool would have this in their own hands, whereas now Leicester would stay 3 points ahead of Liverpool, and Liverpool, by dint of that goal, would have a 1 goal better goal difference.
But if Liverpool actually win their last 2 games,
well, yeah,
will, unless Leicester hammer Spurs, you would expect Liverpool to have a superior goal difference after 2 wins than Leicester would after 1.
Yeah, you would.
What I mean?
It goes without saying Liverpool have to win their games here when I'm talking, obviously, listeners. So this would leave Leicester on 66 points, Liverpool on 63. Leicester, which is 1 game against Spurs at home left, and then Liverpool with Burnley away and Palace at home, have to win both of them. And, well, presumably, as you said, Leicester aren't going to put 5 on Spurs. That gives Liverpool a pretty good chance against Burnley away and Palace at home to maintain a better goal difference. Oh, it's going to be so tight, though.
It's in their hands, as you said, like you would think. Like they can't account for, Leicester going on a sort of a mad scoring one. Or, I suppose, Chelsea still have to go and do the business at Aston Villa on Sunday, which is by no means... I think that's a tricky enough game. At least we're going to have something hanging on Sunday. That there's going to be something really genuine to play for. When you have a season where the relegation has been sorted for ages and the title has been sorted for ages, it's actually good to have something that is of sort of genuine substance.
Well, this will be good if this comes down to goal difference. Who knows? Maybe Spurs will have a Harry Kane shaped hole in their heart, which is where I want to go next. This was the other big news today, Dan. I guess this had a slightly inevitable feeling. No Champions League football for Spurs. Harry Kane is of an age now where it's now or never. Unfortunately for him, he signed a 6-year deal 3 years ago. So he still has 3 years left on his contract, which you would think gives Spurs a good degree of control over the situation. However, and this was the interesting part, it was generally reported that he has a gentleman's agreement with Daniel Levy. Now, nothing concrete from Kane, nothing concrete from Spurs. I presume there's briefing going on all over the place. You suspect this is from the Harry Kane side, that we had a gentleman's agreement with Levy. OK, I'm going to give Mourinho a chance. It started last season. We've lost Poch. Let's see where things are going. I'm going to give you my everything. And if in a year's time we're not making progress, then fair offer, I can leave. This is the gentleman's agreement. Here we are a season later. Fair to say progress has not been made, so he thinks, well, our agreement is such that I can leave. Now, look, this has been dismissed by a lot of people as best of luck, gentleman's agreement. Is this even a thing? I was listening to Simon Jordan, the Crystal Palace chairman, and he was making the point this does happen. He was remembering when he was Palace chairman, Andy Johnson relegated with Palace, and the gentleman's agreement was, give me a year in the Championship, try and get us back up, we'll give you a pay rise, and if at the end of the year we're not back in the Premier League, and a quote-unquote fair offer, and that's where this thing could get sticky, but if a fair offer comes in, you can go, and fair offer came in from Everton, and off he went. So for Daniel Levy and Kane, you'd like their understanding of, 1, what is a fair offer here, and 2, can he go to a Premier League club? Do they have to pay a premium if he's going to a Premier League club? I mean, Spurs, the report is Spurs are looking for 150 million sterling for a 27-year-old. That is steep. That's really steep. I don't know. How do you see all this then?
Yeah, the interesting point you make about the gentleman's agreement, certainly, because what would have struck me was I was listening to a podcast with Glenn Little, ex-Reading, and speaking about that when they were relegated years back. A lot of them gave it a season. Kevin Doyle, I think, would have been in that team, and it is almost a sense of, give us a year. And so it wouldn't, the idea of it, there's a bit of sort of derision towards it, but I can understand how that would happen. I mean, we've, the Ronaldo Manchester United one going back years, there's a sort of a version of that as well. But what is slightly odd about it, obviously, is that clearly someone has felt the need that this information and this part of it needs to be leaked for whatever reason. Now, is that just to let the other clubs that are potentially in the market for, this is real, this isn't just, your usual Harry Kane speculation. Like, he's yours if you can come up with it. But does that need to happen publicly? Maybe it does.
It struck me as a PR war here. So there's two aspects to this. Like, there's getting the done deal. I don't think there's any issue in letting City, United, Chelsea know that he's for real here. I think that's very easily done. His agent gets on the phone and says, this is for real, trust me. I think Kane is very conscious of his legacy. I think he's very conscious that he doesn't want to go back to White Hart Lane and be White Hart Lane, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, the clunkiest name of all time, and be booed. I really don't think he wants that. I think he genuinely would hate that. And so I think this is his way of saying to Spurs fans, I even wanted to go last year when Poch went, and I gave it a year, and it was like, if we're making progress, I'll stay. And clearly progress hasn't happened. So reluctantly I'm going, but really, wink, wink, nod, nod. It's Levy's fault. It's the hierarchy of the club's fault. They haven't invested, kind of a thing. I don't really want to go, but I tried. I gave it an extra year. That'd be my read on the leaking of the gentleman's agreement, to put a bit of pressure on Levy and like, look what you've made our golden boy do here, Daniel, kind of a thing. Whether it works or not, I don't know, but that was my read on the leaking.
Yeah, no, I can see that point, but like, and I don't know though, like, you're arguing about legacy and all. I mean, I don't know how. Like, the easiest way to preserve it, obviously, is just to go overseas, but who's going to, PSG maybe, which was the one that was mentioned a couple of months back. Maybe. Are they the only one you could realistically see doing that? Yeah. I think probably. And obviously, listen, there's a Pochettino angle there. Even though PSG have had a sort of a pretty disappointing season by their standards. Beyond that, like, you see, I think obviously with English players, you always assume that they're like, you can talk about price, but like the idea of having, like, say, an England captain and a sort of a ambassadorial figure, that probably, like, I don't know how much is that worth, like 20-50 million of the 150,
I think it is. I think it's 20, 25, 30 million, yeah.
So, like, the extent sometimes to which we talk about, value and the price of a player, I think sometimes with the top end transfers in the world, it's almost irrelevant in a way. I mean, it's not completely irrelevant, but like, once you get to someone who's above that threshold, you're thinking, okay, well then what sort of what sort of commercial value can he bring that will instantly offset the clearly inflated price you're talking about here? Yeah. Like, probably not worth it, but in terms of pure football ability relative to, let's list all the other players that have gone for that money, isn't it insane that he's going to go for, double what Ronaldo went to Madrid for, or just less than double or whatever? Yeah. But there's a bigger picture at play here with that, and maybe Spurs reached the realization as well that that's good business too at a certain point. They've never been afraid to sell a player either.
No, it's true. It really puts them on the back foot with their fans, and trying to attract a new manager when you've lost Harry Kane, it's a more arduous task, isn't it? It's definitely an easier sell when you're offering one of the best strikers in the world as part of your squad to any prospective manager. So, like, say his options are pretty much Chelsea, United and City. Like, to go to Chelsea, that would be so interesting. If he does care about his legacy,
I can't see that one.
He can't go to Chelsea. As much as, like, Chelsea would look at him and think, Tuchel's in, we're nice, we're pragmatic. If Timo was scoring even half the chances he got, we'd be lethal. So if we have Harry Kane, we can overnight challenge for the title. So Chelsea will probably have a good go to get him. But like you, I'd be surprised if he is conscious of legacy, and I think he is. Then Chelsea is out, which leaves United and City. And if you're Harry Kane and you're 27 as opposed to 23, then I think City is your only option, no?
It probably is. I'm just thinking about legacy. Like, if there was a Spurs game tomorrow, with fans, a full stadium, and Teddy Sheringham or Dimitar Berbatov were, like, introduced to the crowd, would they get cheered or would they get booed? Like, they both made that move, right?
What do you think?
Manchester.
I think Teddy cheered. At this stage, cheered.
And I think Berbatov, like, there seems to be, like, when people talk about Berbatov's career, a lot of it is about him and Robbie and the Spurs days, as much as his man. So, like, it's been done.
And do you think City would be problematic? I think it's pretty similar.
I'm just really making that point that, like, in terms of legacy, it's probably why any Manchester move is probably safe enough. City, it's like, you can sort of square it and go, well, listen, he wants to win something. They're a dominant team. He's going to work. I think you can explain both of those away in a way that you could just never explain Chelsea. Because Chelsea, as we've discussed and you've discussed, they could be managerless in 18 months. So they tend to go through states of flux or whatever. So I don't know, like the City one, but again, like, does he fully fit the City vision for what they want? I mean, that's obviously the thing. I mean, they obviously have a high-profile striking vacancy.
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, he's such an all-round player. Like, he's been almost, he's been playmaker extraordinaire. He's not just fox in the box. I mean, he's such an all-round player. Man, if he went to Chelsea, could you imagine? He might as well score against Spurs and kiss the badge. I mean, it's over. There's no way of explaining the Chelsea one away. So we'll see. It's kind of fascinating. Spurs are just an interesting case at the moment. You feel this is real make or break time for them. And look, it might depend on which of City or United are prepared to pay the money as well. And maybe United throw in a Martial or a Lingard. All of that stuff is floating around. Listen, we'll take a break. We had Max Rushton on the show this morning with Owen on OTB AM, the broadcaster. I think everyone pretty familiar with Max Rushton, and he was talking about just how damn good Wes Hoolahan has been. That was we were interested in the promotion, and he was all about Wes. So we'll try and play you some of that. But next up, Dan, I know you'll be interested in this story. David Rowe is going to join us, treasurer at Sligo Rovers, so myself and Dan are going to chat to him. It's just great news, really, for the League of Ireland. The upgrading of stadiums is just an absolute must for the league to really kick on. And with the likes of Dalymount and the Tallaght Stadium and Finn Harps getting off the ground now, it seems Showgrounds is going to have a €17.3 million plan to turn it into a modern 6,000-seater stadium, which, if that happens, would just be great for the league, great for the area. So David Rowe, the treasurer, is going to join us next. Back in 1 sec.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power, the Champions League. We love it as much as Neymar loves himself. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
Show Me the Science with Professor Luke O'Neill.
A News Talk original podcast series focusing on different issues, from the serious to the silly, all explained through science. Catch up on the podcast series at newstalk.com or on the Newstalk app.
Guaranteed Irish business members are working hard to support jobs, communities and help our economy recover and prosper beyond COVID and Brexit.
Who would have thought, from humble beginnings in a West Cork butcher shop in the 1880s, that Clonakilty Food Company will be exporting their black pudding, white pudding, sausages and rashers around the world today? Supporting 50 jobs in Clonakilty, West Cork, Clonakilty Food Company, a local family business, has made sure that their products are available to families at home and abroad during these challenging times. Let's start our recovery with guaranteedirish.ie. All together better.
It's been a long year, but at last it's here. The massive Easy Living Interiors Summer Sale. We've reopened our doors with new styles in all stores and savings that are off the scale. Gorgeous sofas and chairs, tables, beds and homewares, designs that are stylish and clever. We can't wait to show you round and the bargains to be found in the best Easy Living Summer Sale ever. Easy Living Interiors, Cork, Waterford, Navan, Naas, Sandyford, Drogheda and Wexford. Sale now on.
SIMI member garages are now fully open. Looking for a new or used car, a service or repair? Then talk to your local SIMI retailer. Visit simi.ie/find a member. Stay safe and look after your car. Brought to you by the Society of the Irish Motor Industry.
Hi, it's Davy Fitzgerald here. No one likes to receive a red card. But this Bladder Cancer Awareness Month, I have teamed up with the Marie Keating Foundation to give bladder cancer the red card. Join me and raise awareness of bladder cancer by understanding its early signs and symptoms. And together, let's send bladder cancer off the pitch.
If you see blood in your urine, experience pain when passing urine, or notice any change to your toilet habits, speak to your GP immediately. For more, visit mariekeating.ie/red card. Kindly supported by Roche Products Ireland Limited.
You know what? Whoever said that nothing in life is free is wrong. My mate, One Leg Larry, got a free ticket to a crocodile enclosure last year. Although, up until that point, we just call him Larry. It's probably a bad example, but what about your PRSI entitlement at Specsavers? That gives you a free eye test and free glasses from their €69 range.
And now get free hearing aids with PRSI too. Book an appointment or find out more at specsavers.ie.
Wouldn't it be amazing if you could make 99.9% of coronavirus disappear into thin air? Well, now you can. Sanity System eliminates 99.9% of COVID-19 and other airborne and surface viruses in the workplace. As you reopen your business, protect your staff, customers and visitors with Sanity System. Available to rent or purchase now. Visit sanitysystem.ie.
Summer of sport at Curry's PC World. Immerse yourself in the action with amazing deals on our large screen TVs. For better angles and razor sharp detail, check out our QLED and OLED ranges and get free delivery on large screen TVs 55-inch and above. T's and C's apply. Get in store or online now at currys.ie.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Only the cream of the crop pick up Champions League medals. Jonathan Greening's got one. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
You're welcome back. So still 1-0 to Chelsea at Stamford Bridge. 62 minutes on the clock. Myself and Dan McDonnell, which you hear on the football show. Dan mentioned before the break, we are joined by David Rowe, Treasurer at Sligo Rovers. David, great to have you on. How are things?
Yeah, things are good. Yeah, thank you. Yeah,
So,
good, big day for the club.
Ambitious plan. Yeah. So just to give people a broad sense of where we are, and you can fill us in on the details. Sligo Rovers have published details of a €17 million master plan to redevelop the showgrounds into a 6,000-seater stadium. The plans have been endorsed by the FAI, by Sligo County Council. They would mean that the showgrounds would be a UEFA Category 3 standard, would include multiple changing rooms, gym, media facilities, obviously appropriate to the standard, hospitality spaces, offices and more. So is this happening, David, or is this just a plan and it's now about securing the money? What's the prognosis over the next couple of years?
It's a plan. I think as a club we've a record of delivering on whatever we plan to do. So it's a plan. Getting funding and significant public funding for it is going to make it happen or not. But as a club, we've got a really good track record over the last number of years of delivering things that we've planned. So you've got to have a plan, you've got to have a vision, and you've got to have belief. And we think we're in a good position to deliver this, and the aim is to have it in place by our centenary year in 2028. So that gives us a bit of time, but it's more than just a report with an over-ambitious set of drawings on it. We are absolutely determined to develop the showgrounds. It's about spectator comfort, it's about community, and it's about putting the best product on the pitch that we possibly can. So that's where we see the club going to.
No, it's great. And of the, say, 17.3 million required, David, what percentage of that will be public money, and have government given assurances, or where are you on that front?
Yeah, we're really only just starting on that front. I mean, we've had fairly significant endorsements even today from the various stakeholders, and there's been a certain amount of expenditure to get the master plan up and running, but we are really at the start of the funding. We can fund some of it ourselves, particularly because we will be able to access finance. Some of the project will actually help the club's own income streams into the future, and it's an important part of any plan that you can actually afford it and pay for it. So, but we're really at the start of the public funding round.
Okay.
Yeah.
And broad terms, percentage-wise, how much of this can Sligo fund, and then how much do you think you'll need?
Hard question, because there are grants from different sources, but I think we can do our bit. That could be 15-20% or whatever, but we would be relying on the bulk of the funding coming from the various grant sources, and that has been the picture. If you look at Dalymount, if you look at Tala, if you look at Louth GAA, we're not what we're doing is consistent with those other developments, and we think that we can fund similar proportions to the amounts that have been asked for from the clubs in those other developments.
Yeah, Dan, I'm sure you have a thought or a question.
Yeah, no, I mean, David, I'm just sort of curious. The one striking aspect of it was, and it's something I'm a big believer in, sort of shared facilities in Irish sport. We don't have enough of it. There is an aspect where you're sort of pairing with the local rugby club, and the potential of some kind of provincial rugby events there at some point. I mean, again, how real is that in terms of your vision for this, and even how important is it, quite bluntly, from a sort of a funding perspective as well, that you're seen to be representing more than just one sport?
Yeah, I suppose, Dan, there's no such facility in Sligo or indeed in the Northwest at the moment. So, we have an endorsement and the support of Sligo Rugby Club in applying for this. I know, we've had some discussions with Connacht Rugby in the past about holding matches, and with this new facility, we think it's a very real option. It's not dependent on it. It's a plus if it comes in. And as our chairman said today, our ground is lying empty really from November through to the beginning of March. If you look at all the stadiums on the continent, they're multi-sport, they're multi-function. So we see this as being, we're going to have a museum there, we're going to have a cafe there, we're going to have a lot of other community facilities, a gym. It's in an area, Sligo town, that is zoned for relatively significant residential development without a whole pile of those kind of infrastructure. Certainly, things like pharmacies, a GP clinic, all those things are possible and probably lacking in that area. So, we see it even beyond other sports, Dan. We see it very much into, we're having a museum. I know we've got an outdoor museum that you've seen already. But, there's a whole pile of things that Sligo Rovers can, we're very community funded. So, we'd like it to become, a drop-in coffee shop, et cetera, et cetera. So, yes, to other sports, but, our ambition is wider than that. It's, the local population who we'd be very bonded into, and otherwise, to be honest, Sligo wouldn't be running a professional soccer club.
Yeah, because I'm just I know the Finn Harp situation, I think a frustration there has probably been politically at times, some local support. I think even other parts of the country, even in Louth, for example, even the discussions around Dundalk and Drogheda, politically it's not always been straightforward. Am I taking it from what you've sort of dipping the toe in the water that politically in your area, in your neck of the woods, you're getting positive responses from people, that you're not going to meet some of that resistance maybe that has been felt, I think, elsewhere at times?
Yeah, I'm sure there will be barriers. I think our position is probably different from most. In that Sligo Rovers is, very much, currently anyway, at least thankfully, the identified sport and national team, and we're currently second or third in the league, depending on whether we get 3 points on the Waterford fixture. So it's very much an identity for Sligo and the local community, maybe a little bit more so than other sports. So, I think we probably may not see the same level of division and political barriers, Dan, because it's a slightly different picture than other areas of the country.
And David, just the last one, and hopefully all this comes to fruition. I mean, it would be great for the area. You were on, obviously, during the teeth of lockdown and talking about the financial challenges, and clearly people aren't back at games yet, so I'm sure revenue is very difficult. How are Sligo Rovers at the moment?
Yeah, we're reasonably good. It's always tough. There are significant supports in place in terms of the wages subsidy scheme and FAI grants. We run ourselves, I think, reasonably well and reasonably responsibly. We have it in the bank, not in the bank, but we can see where we're going to see, out the season, with reasonable comfort. We also have the cushion of European football, so you might remember we went from 0 points to 4th place last year. That gives us European football, which is coming in July, and that is financially the holy grail. So we have that as an underwrite this year. We're not going to have that every year, but I mean, what we're trying to do through this stadium development is enhance our club. It's a 30, 40, 50-year plan, so that Sligo Rovers will be consistently in the top end of the division. We're currently we're producing 40% of our first team squad through our own academy. We're probably going to be running 7, 8, 9 teams over the next 3 years. So financially it's tough. League of Ireland football is always tough, but we've weathered the storm last year, and we had quite a decent year actually financially in the end. And the underwrite of European football just makes such a difference and gives you a level of comfort. And if you're down as an avid follower of the league, you can see in the squad and the players that we signed that we've used that to good effect. And I suppose, like, as a club, you'd have to say that we've always invested in infrastructure. When we won the league back in 2012 and the cups around that, we put up a new stand down at the railway end of the ground. So this is really just a continuation of that. But yeah, financially, it's not too bad, and the supports are significant. Though it's a bit of a false environment, and thank goodness for the supports, and I suppose the government have taken the view and that having live sport is important, and they have certainly supported it, as has the parent body.
Okay, good to hear. I guess short term is all we can worry about just at the moment. David, thanks so much for coming on. Appreciate it.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Dan.
David Rowe there, treasurer at Sligo Rovers. Just to update you on events at Stamford Bridge, let's go over to Ian Beach.
It's Chelsea 2, Leicester 0. Jorginho scoring a penalty. Chelsea had 2 goals ruled out by VAR in the first half, but in the second half they've been given a penalty by it. Timo Werner was fouled clumsily by Fofana. VAR proved it was inside the box, and Jorginho Schmeichel the wrong way from the spot. Chelsea 2, Leicester 0.
There we are. So it looks good for Chelsea from Champions League point of view. It'll be Leicester v Liverpool for this one. Liverpool play Burnley tomorrow, by the way, if you're wondering about that game. Just before I go to Max Rushton on our beloved Wes, Dan, I guess for League of Ireland, you're hoping this is a period now, I was saying in the news round, this decade or so of regeneration. Remember all the Premier League grounds were done up in the 90s?
Yeah.
Some kind of version of that, given Dalymount and Finn Harps, hopefully, and the Tallaght Stadium, I guess, being almost the vision you'd have for a lot of clubs.
Yeah, well, I mean, Tallaght is motoring along, and they're planning to finish that fourth side, so it'll be a real proper stadium. And listen, we've been talking about it for years, and you want to change the record sometimes when you're talking about, Irish football. Like, I was in Drogheda last Friday, Drogheda against St Pat's, really good game of football, and they'd say this themselves in Drogheda, like, just a horrendous venue at this stage. They've tried to get out of it. They want to get their stadium advanced too.
Yeah.
Like, I want to be talking about the games and the players and what we're doing. And some too often it's facilities, but I think people realise, and you touched on it with the Taoiseach in your interview and stuff, like, if we're going to throw ourselves into bid projects and other stuff, we need to have our week to week situation right at home, definitely.
Clock's probably against us. We don't really have time to discuss this, but look, we've discussed Wes Hoolahan plenty, Dan. I'm not sure there's anything left for us to say, but the people of Cambridge, very impressed with Wes as well. Their player of the season, I think, or certainly on the short
been
list.
Outstanding.
Yeah, outstanding. Okay, so here's Max Rushton. He's Soccer AM broadcaster. I think he's pretty familiar. He was on with Owen this morning, and he was amongst those who was loving Wes's work.
He's such a brilliant footballer, and it's so interesting how loved he is by everyone in the world except for anyone who happens to be the manager of the Republic of Ireland. That's sort of that's the running theme, isn't it? And by all accounts, you will know better than me, there have been hours and hours of phone-ins of why haven't we found a space for Wes Hoolahan in the Ireland team? And I can't really, I honestly, I couldn't tell you who Ireland's starting central midfield is at the moment, but I'd be surprised if Wes wasn't good enough to do a job for you still. I was doing a Cambridge United podcast, which I suspect the Venn diagram of people who listen to this, and that is small, and was talking about, I think he's the best central midfielder we've ever had. And I include, obviously we almost got into the Premier League. We played a style of football that avoided that part of the pitch for most of the time, right? So, Ireland fans will be, they will know that style of football. I can't think of a better central midfielder that we've ever had in our history. I'm obviously just I'm in a haze of promotion glory at the moment, but he's such a, he's a dream of a footballer. He just has time on the ball. He can get out of tight spaces. His distribution is beautiful, and he seems, I've spent no time with him, but he seems like a really down-to-earth, humble bloke who just wanted to play football, right? The reason he plays for Cambridge is not because he desperately wants to play for Cambridge. It's just near his house, you know, and so, you know, that's a great reason. He was on trial last year. I say he was on trial. Basically, Cambridge was on trial for him, and then he decided to go and play in Australia. I don't blame him for that at all. And it didn't work out there because he got injured. So we were lucky to get him. And I don't know if he's made his mind up what he wants to do or if other clubs are interested. But, you know, hopefully he just won't move house, and then we'll still be the nearest club for him that isn't Norwich. And so he'll be with us next season.
Full chat, well worth catching, Max Rushton. I just said, Dan, we've got 10 seconds, we're out of time. I just wanted to play it. I just like other people talking about Wes.
Yeah, listen, I mean, 39 this weekend and still been appreciated, or belatedly appreciated.
Yes.
More to the point.
We got to go. Sorry, tight in the end. Dan, thanks a mil.
Thanks, Joe.
Cheers. Leicester have pulled a goal back, so it's 2-1, 78 minutes on the clock, Stamford Bridge.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Fake crowd noise? The Emirates never sounded so good. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
With Virgin Mobile, there's nothing hidden. Now you can try unlimited data calls and texts for only €10 a month for 12 months, available exclusively online. It's an offer that's bigger than big. So, what are you waiting for? See virginmobile.ie. Virgin Mobile, nothing hidden.
SIM-only contract for T's and C's and acceptable usage policy. See virginmobile.ie. €25 a month after offer. Ends 2nd of June 2021.
At Peugeot, we're known for our exciting range of award-winning cars and SUVs. Now we've created a range that's electrifying. The fully electric E208, striking and distinctive. The fully electric E2008 compact SUV, smooth and spacious. And the 3008 plug-in hybrid, combining advanced electric and petrol engine technology. To book a test drive at your nearest Peugeot dealer, visit Peugeot.ie.
First up, a Go Loud original from News Talk.
Get all the news you need to start your day with First Up, the podcast that brings you stories, analysis and interviews with the top newsmakers. First Up, available each weekday morning from 7 a.m. on Go Loud.
Subscribe to this podcast for free on the Go Loud app.
Time to give your home some love this summer? Then don't miss the Harvey Norman in-stock summer sale on furniture, bedding and homewares. Our spacious stores are fully open with a massive range of sofas, dining tables, beds, mattresses and more. In stock, ready for immediate delivery. Up to 50% off bed frames. Irish-made mattresses from a low $149. Up to 70% off duvet sets. In stock, ready to go. Shop the Harvey Norman in-stock summer sale online or safely in our spacious stores. Open until 6 p.m. daily. Don't miss out.
If you're aged 50 to 59, you'll be offered your free COVID-19 vaccine next. You can register now on hse.ie. When it's time for your vaccine, we'll send you a text with your appointment time and location. You'll be invited to get your vaccine at a HSE vaccination centre. If you can't register online, you can call us on 1850 24 1850. To register or to find out more about your COVID-19 vaccine, go to hse.ie. From the HSE.
In this week's Sunday Independent, we publish the results of a comprehensive survey to reveal Ireland's 150 best employers. We speak to CEOs, staff, and experts to find out what's important now. Is remote working the future? Have women achieved real equality? And how to get ahead and stay happy. Find out in this week's Sunday Independent, or read online at independent.ie. Up close and independent.
Planning to redesign your office? The team at Hunt Office Interiors have you covered. We've been specialising in glass partitioning systems and office fit-outs for over 21 years. With a wide range of glass partitioning held in stock, including our fire-rated systems, we've a solution to suit any requirement. Our design team are here to help bring your vision to life. Email interiors@huntoffice.ie and arrange to visit one of our ultra-modern showrooms in Dublin, Limerick and Cork. Hunt Office Interiors, supporting our business community for over 21 years.
Football on Off the Ball.
With Paddy Power. Champions League nights on Off the Ball. Bigger than Zlatan's ego. Gamble responsibly. Gamblingcare.ie.
It was an 8:15 kick-off at Stamford Bridge, so they'll be done after we're off air. About 10 minutes to go. Chelsea 2-1 up, so back to being a little bit squeaky for Chelsea. And Liverpool will be watching on nervously. Burnley tomorrow night for Liverpool. It's going to go down to the wire one way or another, you suspect. Football on Off the Ball, with thanks to Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie is the place to go. So OTB AM back tomorrow 7:30. The Classic Game Club returns. They're looking back at the 0-1 All-Ireland quarter-final in Thurles. Dublin against Kerry. Of course, they meet there at the weekend in the league. They have Aisling Sheridan on, the Cavan Collingwood star. And then the lads, I can't believe we're here already, but we are, the Euros cheat sheet. So the lads are going to start with Turkey and Italy tomorrow. And then, of course, we're back tomorrow evening. Amongst other things, we'll check in with an Irish coach making a real go of it, Mike Prendergast at Racing, highly regarded. Obviously, we've an all-French European Cup final at the weekend, so I'm sure he'll give us a few thoughts on that as well. So all that and plenty more from 7 tomorrow evening. In the meantime, Tom Dunn on the way next. Good luck.